All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast. And once again, I am privileged to have Cal One the God chiming in
Yes,
with
sir. What's going on? Thanks for having me, William. What's up?
nothing
What we
much,
doing
man.
today? What we talking about today?
Nothing much. Pleasure to have you on as
Thank you.
always.
Happy to be
And
here.
want to talk about this Kyler Murray Arizona Cardinals situation. I did a podcast on this last week, and the more that both parties talk, it looks worse and worse for everybody involved. First, you have the scenario where Kyler Murray was seeking a new deal. Okay, then not too long after Arizona was eliminated from the playoffs by the Rams, and of course, Kyler did not have a good game. He deleted any mentions to the Cardinals from any of his social media accounts. There was talk back and forth about this through the media, some negative, as far as comments from both sides about this. Then the deal recently got done, the 5-year extension for $230 million. Of course, not all of that is guaranteed. But then, it came out as far as the study clause, the homework clause, if you will, in Kyler's deal.
Definitely.
Kyler came out and spoke out about it. Next thing you know, the Cardinals walked back from it. And I said, listen, it was a bad look for everybody involved because I said it before and I will continue to say it. If you're the Cardinals, that you had to put that clause in Kyler Murray's deal, then why give him the deal in the first place? And if your agent, if your Kyler Murray had an issue with the deal, why did he allow you to sign the contract? So I just think it's a bad look for everybody involved.
Well, let's break the kid down. He didn't play well against the Rams. Um, he what he did. He's played 3 years already.
Hmm.
I think he's thrown for close to 12,000 yards, 70 touchdowns against like 34 interceptions with a 98.1 passer rating. And he also happens to own a 22, 23, and 1 record. Am I correct, William?
That is correct.
Okay. So, what that tells me about Arizona as an organization, okay, you got one piece in place, but to have that record in 3 years worth of time tells me that you got other parts of, what you need to do as a team to get everybody on one track like they did last year. You got to improve other parts of your team. And some of it is gradual through grooming and player development as well. I'm going to be honest with you on that. And Arizona has been in the basement for a long time. They just started resurfacing the last few years. They got some players. They had some really really good players on both sides of the ball, but they couldn't seem to pin everything down together. They were able to do that last year. I think Kyler Murray is a very sensitive young man. That's number one, two, three, four, and five. The same way you win, you got to learn how to lose, bro. It can't be, or is that your way? When he took them off of all the social media accounts and saying, "Give me a contract." We're looking at him as an overall quarterback. So before I get into what I want to get into, because I want to get into Warren Moon's comments, all right, I want to ask you: is he a top 10 quarterback in the league right now?
Kyler Murray, no. And the reason why I say it is because, he has talent, yes. He has displayed that talent, in his 3 years. But, I think talent alone is not, what makes a great quarterback. Also, it's the leadership. And at the end of the day, Kyler Murray is not a leader. And, he never has been at any point, collegiately, or in the pros, I mean, you go back to it with his time first, because again, first his collegiate career actually started at Texas A&M.
Right, that's correct.
Then he transferred to Oklahoma. Now, he sat behind, Baker Mayfield,
Right,
for until Baker, went to the NFL, and
right.
then he had his time to shine. But we've seen this with the Oklahoma quarterbacks. They come to the NFL, after putting up, those video game numbers, you
Massive
know,
numbers,
against
massive.
the Big 12, a conference that has been notorious for having bad defenses. And you figure, a lot of what Kyler did, at his time in Oklahoma was, what? I'm going to CD Lamb. And if CD Lamb's not open, because CD Lamb used to burn most of the defenders in the Big 12, I'm just going to take off and use my legs. The dynamic has changed in the NFL because you have defensive ends and outside linebackers that are just as fast as you.
They will catch him and
Right,
drag him
right.
and
And
hurt him.
right. And a lot of that, has led to, Kyler Murray's injury issues
There you have it.
over the past 2 seasons. Now, what Kyler Murray needs to do is he has to learn how to be a better pocket passer. And in order to be a better pocket passer, you have to learn that, what, if your first option is not there, you got to look at 2, 3, and 4, and then possibly come back to, number one.
Or
And
throw the ball away.
right,
Simple as that. Just throw the ball
right.
away.
So there's a maturation process that comes into that as well. And just like I said last week, is something that I'm going to reiterate now.
Right.
The Arizona Cardinals as an organization are not blameless in this because if you go back, Kyler Murray has been the starter from day one with the Cardinals. And
Right.
listen, I understand that, especially, now how things have changed with the rookie contracts. You really need to see sooner rather than later what you have with these youngsters at quarterback. But
Right.
with that said, the Cardinals never brought in a veteran quarterback, even as
We
a
talked
backup.
about this yesterday. We
So
said this yesterday.
right, and that right there, I think, has hindered everything. Now, to Kyler's credit, okay, one thing that hurt him in that playoff game against the Rams, he did not have his top wide receiver in Duke Hopkins. And Duke Hopkins missed like some of the second half of the season,
You did.
with that knee injury. But at the same time, you have to wonder, if that knee injury is going to hinder, Duke Hopkins from being the
Come
Duke
in.
Hopkins
Right.
that we've
He
seen,
could ball. He could
right,
ball.
right. But you know what? You can't get over a bad knee. And it's like, AJ Green, I'm looking at AJ Green play wide receiver out there. AJ Green's on borrowed time. Those feet injuries, they're starting to catch up to him.
I like
Obviously,
AJ Green. I ain't gonna front. I
and
like
and
like
and
that front.
obviously his best years in Cincinnati were with Andy Dalton. But
Right. That's
but
true.
but nonetheless, at the same time with Kyler, okay, you take this big contract, and the thing is, and it's like it's not just him; it's any of these quarterbacks out there. And I will continuously say this and sound like a broken record: do you want to win or do you want to get paid? Because guess what? When your contract is eating up that much of a
That's cap
portion,
space. Yeah. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
that's cap space, and you know what? The organization is not going to be able to put the team around you that you're
There you
going to
have it.
need in order to succeed. And
It's
the thing,
simple.
is like the next thing you know, your offensive line starts getting depleted. And if you're Kyler Murray, you need all the pass protection that you can possibly get. Why? Because 4 of your games every single season are against the Rams and against the 49ers. And when you think about the Rams and 49ers, two things that they do better than just about anybody else in the NFL is rush the passer and get to the quarterback. And the thing is, it's not just about Aaron Donald for the Rams. Obviously, you have Leonard Floyd. They lost Von Miller, but then you bring in a Bobby Wagner, who is very smart as a middle linebacker. And then you think about the Niners, what they could bring to the table with Nick Bosa and crew out there in the Bay Area and how they rush the passer. So these are things that you have to factor in. They already lost Christian Kirk in free agency to Jacksonville. So their wide receiving core is going to be a little depleted. Cliff Kingsbury, who really is a college coach, I don't care what anybody says. He has built this team like a college team. As far again, another guy who came from the Big 12, and they try to have speed outside at the receiver position. But it doesn't mean a thing if you can't block for your quarterback,
That's right.
and it
That's
doesn't
right.
mean a thing if you can't stop anybody. Now, the Cardinals as a whole over
Right.
the last 2 years, their first half of the season was totally much different from the second half of the season. Both times they came out like gangbusters and they faded. So for me with Kyler Murray, getting back to what you said, I don't think that he's a top 10 quarterback. I think the talent is there, but I think the biggest thing from him is maturity.
I agree. And let me say something about the stigmata of the stigma of the black quarterback. I was reading something the other day where Warren Moon said that, when he came out of school, they didn't want to play him. So he had to go to Canada and it's almost like going to a minor league baseball team or playing in what is that, the lower league from the NBA. The G League?
The G League.
Right. And play out there and win before he could get a legitimate shot in the NFL. Now, people that's out there right now, do y'all know who Warren Moon really is? Because I do. When you talk about video game, you talk about looking at Michael Vick. Yo, he was Michael Vick before Michael Vick. And I'm not talking about with the running. I'm talking about what he could do overall on that football field, and he could throw that football. He was a very, very, very good quarterback. And what he said was with the homework rule, he said by Kyler Murray accepting that, it definitely gives precedence to black quarterbacks not being smart enough to stay in that pocket, know how to move, know how to get to their receivers, know how to read defenses. He broke it down, but he was even more angry with the Arizona Cardinals for them depicting that this kid, he in order for him to get paid, he has to do a certain amount of something in order, to show that he's paying attention to the game. Now, here's the funny thing. I was listening to a Mike Vick interview not too long ago. And here's what Mike Vick said. And I think people listened to it and took it and ran with it. For as good as Michael Vick was, he said, had he put more into the actual studying, and remember, we talked about this yesterday, had he did a lot more with the studying, because he didn't become a professional quarterback until he went to the Philadelphia Eagles. A rounded a professional quarterback. He was, what everybody wanted to see. But when we say you become a professional player, it's different. A lot of these kids, some of them don't pan out as far as the quarterbacks in the NFL because what they do is they're going to go in their natural ability, which is to run. You have to learn how to play the game. You look at Lamar Jackson, all right? Is he in your top 10 quarterbacks?
Lamar is there, if you want to talk about a playmaker, and honestly, I will put Lamar in there, due to the fact that Lamar has been an MVP.
What is he missing? What is he missing?
But the thing is, look, with Lamar, at the end of the day, it's kind of like the same thing.
My point.
Lamar Jackson's first read is not there. You know what? He's not the same quarterback, and that's it. Like the dichotomy or the dynamic rather,
Right.
regardless of the sport, is the same. Whatever you cannot do,
Right.
always gets exposed in the postseason.
That's
And
right.
and when you think about, the year, like obviously, the Ravens have never won a championship with Lamar Jackson as their starting quarterback. He has one playoff win to his credit, as a starting quarterback for the Ravens. But if you go back and look at those three losses that he's had, first against the Chargers, then against the Titans, and then against the Buffalo Bills.
Buffalo Bills, right.
All three of those games have something in common. The opposing team defenses, they dropped their safeties, they dropped their linebackers, and they said, you know what?
Beat us. Put it in the air.
Beat us with your arm. And
Yep.
to this point in his career, he has been unable to do that. So, but getting back to Kyler Murray and also getting back to Warren Moon, it's a situation for Warren Moon. Guys like Warren Moon and Doug Williams, and even before them, the Marlon Briscoes and the James Shaq Harrises of the world, they bit the bullet for a lot of guys that you see today, because obviously in those days it was much tougher, for the black quarterback to go out there and play. Even if guys, had success at the collegiate level. Obviously, when they got to the pros, okay, let's make you a running back, let's make you a wide receiver, and guys, especially Warren Moon. Warren Moon changed that. You know what I'm saying? And even before that, Doug Williams did as well, because Doug Williams was a first round pick coming out of Grambling by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Very strong arm.
Very
Very
strong,
strong arm.
very strong arm, well coached, obviously from the late great Eddie Robinson.
That's
And
right.
between 79 and 82, Doug Williams got the Bucks to the playoffs 3 times, got them to the NFC Championship in 79. But it was just the fact that he played for a bad owner and Hugh Culverhouse, who really didn't
Right.
feel the need to pay him. Doug went to the USFL, and then Joe Gibbs was an assistant coach, early on in Doug's early NFL career, knew what he could do, and brought him into Washington as a backup. And then of course, 1987, the rest is history. And then of course, you think about Warren Moon, bit the bullet, 6 years up in the CFL, 5 Grey Cups. And then when he came to the NFL, it wasn't like, he, was given a red carpet treatment. He went to one of the worst teams at the time in
The
the
Houston
NFL,
Oilers.
in the
That's a
Houston
fact.
Oilers,
That's a fact.
and, he helped turn them around. And then, of course, the rest is history. And Warren Moon is one of the best to have ever done it, at the quarterback position. But to me, I think the thing with Kyler, as much as some people would like to criticize him, and obviously what you're hearing from me is not criticism of him. I'm just telling it how I feel it is, because listen, I think Kyler Murray has done some solid things in the NFL. I think that the potential for him is extremely bright. At the same time, I have to be critical of the Arizona Cardinals, because I don't think that the Cardinals have put him in the best position. And I only say that because, again, you need that mentor at the quarterback position, the most important position in the National Football League. The Cardinals have never given him that mentor. And for me, if you're, as an organization, if you're that uncomfortable with what you perceive as Kyler Murray's study habits or whatnot, why are you willing to give this guy the bag? Why are you willing to invest $230 million in this guy over the next 5 years, which is not chump change? So, it's not just about what you do on the field when you get that money. It's also about being a leader. And if you feel that Kyler Murray is not a leader, if you feel that he has poor study habits, why give him that money? Why not just say, you know what? Let's trade Kyler Murray and start over at that position. But like I said last week, there is a reason why the Arizona Cardinals have only had one Super Bowl appearance in their franchise
So,
history. And I think their only championship goes back to their days as the Chicago Cardinals, not the
no.
St. Louis Cardinals, but the Chicago Cardinals. So for me, it's an organizational thing. And I'm going to dump the majority of the blame on this situation on the Arizona Cardinals. Cal, are you there? Okay, it looks like I lost Cal on this feed here, so I'm just going to take it up from there, and just keep talking about this, and say that what, for me with the Cardinals, they've just dropped the ball in this whole situation, and it's unfortunate for all parties involved. Just like I said last week, because the talent is there from Kyler Murray, and it's one of those where this right here just shows you it's not just about the players, it's about the organizations. And to quote a good friend of mine, that I hope he gets an opportunity to check out this podcast. But you know what? Great players don't win championships, it's great organizations. And for me, the Cardinals, again, I'm going to go back and say they dropped the ball on this, because, again, if you're going to invest so much in Kyler Murray, why not put some veteran leadership around him at the most important position? There are some guys that can come in to the pro ranks, regardless of the sport, especially in the NFL, and be the guy right away at the quarterback position. There are some guys that it takes them some time, and there are some guys that might take them a little extra grooming. Obviously, Kyler Murray was ready to play quarterback right away physically, but it's about the preparation aspect that I think the Cardinals have failed him on that. Cal, you're back.
Yes, and to piggyback on what you're saying is development. He's not ready to be what they want to be, but they had to
You're breaking up a little bit,
extend
Cal.
them
You're breaking
because,
up a
like
little
I
bit.
said, we're going back into.
No, no, you're still breaking up, Cal. Can't hear you. You're still breaking up, man. Okay, Cal unfortunately is still having some technical difficulties there. But again, it's an organizational issue. And this is why I said it last week. And this is why I'm going to say it right now as well. It's a scenario where there are no winners in this. It just looks bad. This is something that was totally unprecedented as far as putting this clause in his contract. And then it looks even worse for the Cardinals to have to walk back from it because obviously for you to put it in writing, it said, you know what, we don't trust this guy enough. And obviously you did your homework, no pun intended, before you drew up this deal. His agent agreed to it. He signed off on it. So, at the end of the day, it's just bad. And obviously, I will piggyback off of this in about a month when I begin to talk about my NFL previews for the upcoming season. And I will still have plenty more to say about the Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray, and this messed up situation for everybody involved. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Want to take the time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you like what you saw and heard on this podcast, please feel free to like it as well as subscribing to this channel. Also, a big shout out to Cal Wonder God as always for chiming in. If you are on Twitter, folks, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There is also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So for Cal Wonder God, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off saying take care, have a wonderful day, and thanks once again for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube.